In deep space, silence can be deadly. When the crew of the Phoenix answers a distress call, they uncover horrors beyond imagination. Human bodies twisted, fused with alien DNA. A nightmare experiment gone wrong. Can they survive what waits in the dark? Or will they become part of the experiment themselves? Stay to the end to find out, and don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling sci-fi adventures. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before them, an ocean of stars and swirling nebulae that seemed almost serene compared to the tension aboard the Phoenix Dash. Captain Alex Ryder stood on the bridge, hands clasped tightly behind his back as he stared out at the void. His sharp features were illuminated faintly by the soft glow of holographic displays scattered across the room. It had been months since their last mission, and boredom was starting to gnaw at the edges of discipline within the crew. That changed when the signal came through, a faint, distorted SOS blinking across their comms like a ghostly whisper. "Captain," called Engineer Luke Harris, breaking the silence. He sat hunched over his console, fingers flying over touch-sensitive controls. "I've isolated it. It's coming from Sector 42 Beta. Old coordinates, matches the registry of the EOS Dash." Alex stiffened at the name. Everyone knew about the EOS Dash, a state-of-the-art research vessel that vanished without a trace 3 years ago. Official reports claimed mechanical failure, but rumors suggested something darker, rumors of classified experiments gone awry. Turning sharply, Alex addressed the rest of the crew. "Dr. King, prep med bay. Harris, run diagnostics on our systems. We're going in blind, and I want every contingency covered." Evelyn King nodded briskly, her expression calm but alert. She adjusted her glasses absent-mindedly as she reviewed protocols on her tablet. Her blonde hair was tied neatly back, giving her an air of professionalism despite the unease settling in her stomach. This wasn't just another rescue mission. It felt personal somehow, though she couldn't explain why. As the ship adjusted course toward the source of the signal, no one spoke aloud what they all feared. If there were survivors, would they even recognize them anymore? The journey to Sector 42 Beta took longer than expected, thanks to unpredictable gravitational anomalies along the way. By the time the Phoenix dropped out of hyperspace, the mood aboard was thick with anticipation. Through the viewport, the derelict form of the EOS loomed ahead, its once sleek hull now pockmarked with meteor impacts and scorch marks. Lights flickered sporadically inside, creating an unsettling strobe effect against the darkness of space. "Looks like whoever sent that signal isn't wasting power," remarked Luke dryly, adjusting the external cameras for a better view. His usual sarcasm masked deeper nerves. This was his first encounter with anything remotely classified as weird science. Alex ignored the comment, focusing instead on the tactical display. "Life signs." "Minimal," replied Evelyn, scanning data from the bioscanner. "One, maybe 2 signatures inside. But they're erratic, like nothing I've seen before." "That doesn't sound promising," muttered Luke under his breath. Ignoring him again, Alex turned to address the team. "We go in armed and ready. Stick together. If this really is the EOS Dash, we need to know what happened here, not just for the sake of the missing crew, but because whatever did this might still be active." Donning their suits, the trio prepared to board the abandoned vessel. As the airlock hissed open, revealing the interior bathed in dim emergency lighting, an oppressive atmosphere greeted them. The corridors were eerily quiet, save for the occasional creak of metal shifting in microgravity. Dust coated every surface, evidence of years of neglect. Yet there was something else, a faint hum, low enough to vibrate through their boots, emanating from deeper within the ship. They moved cautiously, weapons drawn, each step echoing unnaturally loud in the confined space. The further they ventured, the more pronounced the hum became, accompanied now by strange, organic sounds, wet clicks and muffled groans that made Evelyn's skin crawl. They passed labs filled with broken equipment and shattered glass, remnants of frantic activity frozen in time. "This place gives me the creeps," admitted Luke, gripping his plasma cutter tighter. "Feels like we're walking into someone else's nightmare." Before anyone could respond, a sudden movement caught their attention. From around the corner emerged a figure, gaunt, pale, barely recognizable as human. Its eyes darted wildly between the intruders, lips trembling as though trying to form words. "Help, please," it rasped, collapsing onto the floor. Evelyn rushed forward, medical instincts overriding caution. "He's alive," she exclaimed, kneeling beside the man. Up close, she noticed grotesque deformities beneath his tattered clothing, patches of translucent skin revealing pulsating veins, elongated limbs ending in claw-like fingers. "Who are you?" demanded Alex, keeping his weapon trained on the stranger. "Gideon," stammered the man, clutching Evelyn's arm weakly. "I'm the only one left, everyone else they're gone." "What happened here?" pressed Alex, voice firm yet tinged with urgency. Gideon hesitated, tears streaming down his hollow cheeks. "The experiments, they didn't stop, they kept changing us." Gideon's fragmented account painted a chilling picture. According to him, the EOS had been conducting secret research into xenobiology, specifically attempts to merge human DNA with genetic material harvested from an unknown alien species. Initially, progress seemed promising, yielding breakthroughs in adaptability and resilience. But then things spiraled out of control. Subjects began exhibiting uncontrollable mutations, their minds unraveling alongside their bodies. Panic spread among the crew as containment protocols failed, allowing the hybrids to escape confinement. "They were hunting us," whispered Gideon, shivering despite the warmth of Evelyn's thermal blanket. "Picking us off one by one. Some tried to resist, others fled, but none survived. Except me." "Why you?" asked Luke skeptically. "I hid," admitted Gideon, shame coloring his voice. "In the maintenance tunnels. Kept moving, stayed quiet. Watched everything fall apart." While Evelyn tended to Gideon's injuries, Alex studied the surroundings. Something about the man's story didn't add up. Why had the hybrids spared him? And where were they now? "We need to secure the lab," decided Alex finally. "If those experiments are still running, we have to shut them down before they spread beyond this ship." Reluctantly agreeing, the group set off once more, guided by Gideon's shaky directions. Each step brought them closer to answers, but also deeper into danger. The lab was unlike anything the crew of the Phoenix had ever seen. Rows of biopods lined the walls, their glass surfaces fogged with condensation, though faint outlines of humanoid shapes could still be discerned within. Monitors displayed streams of data in alien glyphs interspersed with fragments of human genetic sequences. The air was thick with an acrid smell, something between burnt plastic and decaying flesh. "This is insane," muttered Luke, his voice barely above a whisper as he examined one of the pods. Inside lay what appeared to be a partially formed hybrid, limbs too long, skin translucent, veins glowing faintly blue. Its eyes were closed, but its chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. "Are these things alive?" "Barely," replied Evelyn, her tone clinical despite the revulsion evident in her expression. She scanned the pod's interface, her fingers trembling slightly as she deciphered the readouts. "They're in stasis, kept alive by some kind of nutrient solution. But if the power fails, they'll wake up," finished Alex grimly. He glanced at Gideon, who stood frozen near the entrance, his face pale and drawn. "You knew about this, didn't you? These weren't just experiments. They were your crewmates." Gideon flinched but said nothing, his gaze fixed on the floor. Before anyone could press him further, a low growl reverberated through the room. It wasn't mechanical, it was organic, guttural, and unmistakably hostile. Slowly, the group turned toward the source, a massive containment chamber at the far end of the lab, its reinforced glass cracked and leaking viscous fluid. "Oh no," breathed Evelyn, backing away instinctively. Something moved inside. The creature that emerged from the containment chamber was a nightmare made flesh. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, it combined grotesque human features with alien anatomy, elongated limbs tipped with razor-sharp claws, a torso covered in chitinous plating, and a head dominated by a gaping maw filled with serrated teeth. Its eyes glowed faintly green, scanning the room with predatory intelligence. "Everyone move," shouted Alex, raising his weapon. The creature lunged forward with terrifying speed, smashing through equipment as it charged. The crew scattered, diving behind cover as plasma bolts ricocheted harmlessly off its armored hide. "It's not stopping," yelled Luke, firing repeatedly while frantically reloading. Evelyn crouched beside Gideon, who seemed paralyzed with fear. "We need to get out of here," she urged, tugging at his arm. "No," he snapped suddenly, surprising them all. "You don't understand. We can't leave. If we destroy the lab, they'll come for us." "Who will?" demanded Alex, narrowly dodging a swipe from the creature's claw. "The ones who sent the signal," Gideon replied cryptically. "They're watching, waiting." Before anyone could question him further, the creature let out another deafening roar, drawing their attention back to the immediate threat. With no time to waste, Alex barked orders. "Harris, find a way to disable that thing. King, keep Gideon safe. We're not dying here." Luke nodded, retreating toward a nearby console while laying down suppressive fire. His hands flew over the controls, searching for any vulnerability in the creature's biology. Meanwhile, Evelyn dragged Gideon into a corner, shielding him with her body as debris rained down around them. As chaos erupted in the lab, Luke's frantic efforts began to yield results. A schematic of the creature appeared on the console screen, highlighting clusters of neural tissue concentrated near its thorax. "I've got something," he called out, pointing to the diagram. "If we hit those nodes, we might be able to stun it." Alex adjusted his aim, focusing on the designated area. "Cover me," he ordered, sprinting toward a better vantage point. Evelyn, meanwhile, tried to make sense of Gideon's cryptic warning. "What do you mean, they're watching?" she pressed, her voice urgent. Gideon hesitated, then whispered, "The hybrids aren't the only ones affected. The signal, the SOS, it wasn't meant to bring help. It was bait." Realization dawned on Evelyn's face. "You think whoever did this is still out there? Observing us?" Gideon nodded weakly. "Testing us. Seeing how far we'll go." Her blood ran cold at the implications. Before she could respond, another crash echoed through the lab. The creature had smashed through a support beam, causing part of the ceiling to collapse. Dust and sparks filled the air, obscuring visibility. "Now or never," shouted Alex, taking careful aim. With pinpoint precision, he fired a concentrated burst of plasma at the creature's exposed neural cluster. The shot connected, eliciting a pained shriek as the beast staggered backward, momentarily stunned. "Got it," cheered Luke, seizing the opportunity to activate an emergency lockdown protocol. Heavy blast doors began descending from the ceiling, sealing off sections of the lab. But as the dust settled, Alex noticed something unsettling. The creature wasn't alone. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room, accompanied by the sound of wet, slithering movements. More hybrids were awakening. Panic surged through the group as the realization sank in. They were outnumbered. The first creature may have been formidable, but now multiple pairs of glowing eyes stared at them from the darkness, each attached to a twisted amalgamation of human and alien biology. Some were smaller, faster, their forms more agile. Others lumbered forward like hulking beasts, exuding raw power. "We need to fall back," commanded Alex, ushering everyone toward the exit. "But the lab," protested Evelyn, gesturing to the rows of biopods. "There's no time," interrupted Alex sharply. "If we stay, we're dead." Reluctantly, Evelyn followed, keeping Gideon close as they navigated the collapsing facility. Behind them, the hybrids advanced relentlessly, their movements synchronized as though guided by a shared consciousness. "They're hurting us," observed Luke grimly, glancing over his shoulder. "Like predators driving prey into a trap." "Then we don't play along," decided Alex. "Harris, find another route. We double back and overload the reactor core. If we can't contain them, we'll bury this place." Luke hesitated, weighing the risks. Overloading the reactor would likely kill everyone aboard, including themselves unless they reached the escape pods in time. But staying put meant certain death. Nodding grimly, he accessed the ship's schematics, plotting a course that would give them the best chance of survival. "Follow me," he said finally, leading the group down a narrow maintenance corridor. As they fled, Gideon muttered under his breath, almost too quiet to hear. It's already too late. The maintenance corridor was claustrophobic, its narrow confines amplifying every sound. The distant echoes of pursuing hybrids grew louder, their guttural growls reverberating off the metal walls. Sweat dripped down Luke's brow as he hacked into junction boxes, rerouting power to create temporary barriers along their path. Each delay bought precious seconds, but the creatures were relentless, smashing through obstacles with ease. "Keep moving," urged Alex, bringing up the rear to ensure no one lagged behind. Evelyn struggled to keep pace, her medical training ill-suited for such physical exertion. She clutched Gideon's arm tightly, half supporting him as they stumbled forward. Despite his earlier resolve, Gideon now seemed resigned, his steps sluggish and unsteady. "What happens if we fail?" Evelyn asked suddenly, her voice trembling. Alex glanced at her briefly before returning his focus to their surroundings. Then the galaxy finds out what horrors humanity is capable of creating and maybe unleashing. Her stomach churned at the thought. They weren't just fighting for their lives anymore. They were fighting to prevent a catastrophe that could ripple across star systems. Ahead, Luke paused at an intersection, consulting his tablet. "Reactor control is 2 levels down," he reported. "But there's a problem. The main access route is blocked. We'll have to take the ventilation shafts." "Ventilation shafts," repeated Evelyn incredulously. "Those are barely big enough for one person." "It's either that or face whatever's chasing us," countered Alex. Without waiting for further debate, he boosted himself into the opening, motioning for the others to follow. One by one, they climbed into the cramped ductwork, the metallic clang of their movements masking the sounds of pursuit, for now. The ventilation shafts were a labyrinth of twisting passages, their dimly lit interiors offering little comfort. Progress was slow and painstaking, each movement echoing ominously in the confined space. Evelyn crawled awkwardly, her suit catching on sharp edges, while Gideon trailed behind, his breathing labored and uneven. "Hold up," whispered Luke abruptly, holding out a hand to stop them. From somewhere ahead came the unmistakable sound of scraping metal, something large and heavy dragging itself through the ducts. "They found us," murmured Alex, gripping his weapon tightly. "We can't fight in here," hissed Evelyn, panic creeping into her voice. "There's nowhere to run." "Not yet," agreed Alex. "But we're close to the reactor. If we can reach it before they surround us, we might still have a shot." Nodding, Luke resumed leading the way, navigating by memory and intuition. Every few meters, he paused to listen, ensuring their pursuers hadn't closed the gap. The tension was suffocating, each second stretching into eternity. Finally, they reached a grate overlooking the reactor chamber, a cavernous space dominated by a pulsating core surrounded by intricate machinery. Relieved, Luke pried open the grate and dropped silently to the floor below. One by one, the others followed, landing in a heap amidst the shadows. "All right," said Alex, taking stock of their position. "Harris, start the overload sequence. Everyone else, guard the entrances. We're not letting anything stop us." As Luke approached the control panel, his fingers danced over the keys. Warning lights flashed red, bathing the room in an ominous glow. "Initiating overload in 60 seconds, he announced tersely. Almost immediately, the distant screech of metal signaled the arrival of their hunters. Time was running out. The hybrids poured into the reactor chamber like a flood, their mutated forms writhing and contorting as they squeezed through narrow openings. Their glowing eyes locked onto the crew, radiating malice and hunger. "Here they come," shouted Alex, opening fire. Plasma bolts illuminated the chamber in brief bursts, striking the advancing horde with devastating force. Yet for every hybrid felled, 2 more took its place, their numbers seemingly endless. 30 seconds, called out Luke, his voice strained as he worked feverishly to stabilize the overload sequence. Evelyn grabbed a discarded pipe, wielding it like a club as she defended Gideon. "We can't hold them off forever," she cried, swinging wildly at a leaping hybrid. "We don't have to," replied Alex grimly. "Just long enough." Behind them, The reactor core began to pulse erratically, emitting a high-pitched whine that grew louder with each passing moment. The hybrids faltered, their instincts sensing the impending destruction. For a fleeting instant, hope flickered in the crew's hearts. Then, without warning, Gideon broke free from Evelyn's grasp. "What are you doing?" she demanded, reaching for him. "I'm sorry," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I can't let you leave." Before anyone could react, Gideon sprinted toward the core, pressing his palm against a glowing panel. The countdown accelerated, the timer dropping to 10 seconds. "No!" screamed Evelyn, lunging after him, but Alex held her back. "There's nothing we can do," he shouted, dragging her toward the exit. The last thing they saw before the blast doors sealed shut was Gideon's anguished smile as the chamber erupted in blinding light. The shockwave rippled through the Eos dash, shaking the very foundations of the derelict vessel. Alarms blared incessantly as secondary explosions rocked the structure, sending shards of debris hurtling through corridors already choked with smoke and fire. "Move!" barked Alex, urging his team forward as they sprinted toward the docking bay. The journey back felt surreal, the once familiar pathways now transformed into a nightmarish maze of collapsing ceilings and molten metal. The hybrids had vanished, presumably consumed in the inferno, or so they hoped. Reaching the airlock, they scrambled aboard the Phoenix Dash, sealing the hatch just as the Eos succumbed to its final death throes. Through the viewport, they watched in silence as the doomed ship imploded, reduced to a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated gas. For a long moment, no one spoke. Exhaustion and grief hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid scent of scorched circuitry. "He saved us," murmured Evelyn finally, her voice breaking. "Why would he do that?" "Maybe he couldn't live with what he'd become," suggested Luke quietly. Alex shook his head, staring out at the void. "Or maybe he knew exactly what he was doing and what we needed to survive." Back aboard the Phoenix Dash, the crew regrouped in the briefing room, nursing injuries both physical and emotional. Evelyn tended to cuts and bruises, her hands steady despite the turmoil within. "We should report this," she said eventually, breaking the silence. "The Alliance needs to know what happened here. And risk exposing whatever secrets the Eos uncovered," countered Luke skeptically. "Do you really think they'll handle it responsibly?" "They'll have to," insisted Evelyn. "If hybrids like those exist, we can't bury the truth. Humanity deserves to know." Alex listened silently, weighing their arguments. As captain, the decision ultimately rested with him. Yet the weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. "Evelyn's right," he said finally. "We'll transmit our findings, but encrypted, with strict protocols. Let command decide how to proceed." Reluctantly, the others agreed. Though none of them trusted the bureaucracy entirely, they recognized the necessity of transparency. As preparations began for the transmission, Alex retreated to the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Somewhere out there, forces beyond comprehension lurked, waiting for their next opportunity to test humanity's limits. He clenched his fists, resolve hardening. Whatever challenges lay ahead, the crew of the Phoenix would face them together. Days passed in relative calm as the Phoenix traveled back toward Alliance territory. The crew threw themselves into routine tasks, using work as a distraction from lingering trauma. Yet questions remained unanswered, gnawing at the edges of their minds. What if Gideon was telling the truth? Pondered Luke aloud during a late-night shift. About the signal being bait? About someone watching us? "It doesn't matter now," replied Alex firmly. "Whatever game they were playing, we ended it when we destroyed the Eos Dash. That chapter is closed." But deep down, even he wasn't convinced. Something about the mission felt unfinished, as though the true enemy remained hidden, biding its time. Evelyn, meanwhile, immersed herself in analyzing data recovered from the Eos Dash. Buried within fragmented files were tantalizing hints of broader conspiracies, references to classified projects, shadowy organizations, and covert experiments spanning decades. "This goes deeper than we realized," she admitted to Alex privately. "If we dig too much, we might uncover truths we're not ready for." Then we tread carefully, he replied. Knowledge is power, but only if wielded wisely. The Phoenix docked at Alliance headquarters weeks later, its return greeted with mixed reactions. Officials expressed gratitude for the crew's bravery but remained tight-lipped about the specifics of their report. Speculation swirled among higher-ups, whispers of potential threats sparking debates about increased funding for defense initiatives. For the crew, however, life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible after such an ordeal. They celebrated small victories, meals shared, stories recounted, laughter rediscovered. Bonds forged in adversity became stronger than ever. Yet beneath the surface, unease lingered. Dreams haunted them, fragmented images of glowing eyes and monstrous forms. Nightmares that felt disturbingly real. One evening, as Alex reviewed logs in his quarters, a single line caught his eye, an anomaly buried deep within sensor readings taken during their escape. A faint energy signature, trailing the Phoenix as it departed the wreckage of the EOS dash. Frowning, he zoomed in on the data. The signature matched nothing in known databases, and it was moving toward inhabited space. To be continued. In the vastness of space, danger never truly ends. Will the crew of the Phoenix uncover the truth before it's too late? Subscribe now for more thrilling sci-fi adventures.